Are y'all ready to bust the trail? I'm Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We'd really appreciate it. And shout out to Bumblefoot for that amazing intro music. Once again, I love it and super appreciate it. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You guys can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. I have daytime shows there on Wednesday. I have a nighttime show where I do remote viewing targets on Thursday, and all my spiritual guidance shows. I do those sporadically throughout the week too. So please join me there. And also, you guys visit my shop, War Woman Goods. I'm still having a sale in there for the holidays. I have healing crystal jewelry, and I have Native American turquoise and all sorts of really cool stuff. So please, please visit my shop. Do your Christmas shopping with War Woman Goods. All right, I have a fantastic guest here. It's SOR tonight. Once again, I have Fred Roehl here with me, and he's also known as Fred in Alaska. Don't forget that right after this show, After Hours has an amazing program set up for us. So let's get to our guest tonight. Fred Roehl is a First Nations Alaskan native and a Curyung Tribal Council Member from Dillingham, Alaska. While he doesn't consider himself a researcher, he's dedicated to documenting the oral history of the Bristol Bay watershed and the state of Alaska as a whole. His YouTube channel, which has taken off, by the way, Subartic Alaskan Sasquatch, is a platform for reporting and recording Alaskan Hairy Man encounters. And we're going to hear about a whole bunch of those tonight. And you guys, Fred is actually driving in a blizzard right now. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to SOR, Mr. Fred Roehl. Hey, Fred.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jessica.
Fred, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh.
I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you. And you pay attention to that road tonight, okay?
Oh, trust me, I am.
Yes. Well, Fred, you know, the last time that you and I had a conversation on air, we got cut off a little prematurely that night. So I'm so happy to have you back at Spaced Out Radio and to hear more of your stories about the Alaska Hairy Man and the little people.
Most definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Where do you want to? Where would you like
Fred,
to start?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your YouTube channel. It has really taken off, and you have such a big following, and you have such amazing stories on there of people you know and people around Alaska who have had personal encounters with cryptids and humanoids, such as Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and the little people. Okay, and I want to hear about the Hairy Man tonight. But I'm even more intrigued at this point with these little people that you've talked about on your YouTube channel. So let's start off, first of all, let's talk about the Alaskan Hairy Man project. And tell me what you got going on with that right now.
Well, that's on pause a little bit. The documentary I'm going to be filming in Bristol Bay, and I haven't been able to make it over there for the filming. It's basically going to be some interviews with elders about the oral history of the Hairy Man from the past, and then I'm gonna kind of bring it up into the present day with encounters around the area, and I'm gonna be going to locations and filming at the site where we had our experience in '06, and a few other places along the river. That I mean, there's just tons and tons of Hairy Man encounters along that watershed from basically Lake Clark, Iliamna, all the way down to the Nushagak Bay and everywhere. I mean, all over the state, really. But yeah, it's going to be along those lines.
Nice, very nice. Well, you've been busy, and so the stories you've been telling on your channel are they're pretty mind blowing, and they're very creepy. But it's very real life. You know, these are stories much like the ones I hear, but you have a plethora of them, as we say at Spaced Out Radio. A plethora. Let's talk a little bit about some of the current projects that you're working on then, and some of the places
I talked
that
to more people. Pardon me?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying there's a lot more that doesn't get shared. A lot of people just contact me within the state and just want someone to talk to about it, and they don't really want their experience shared. And if they all wanted it shared, I would have 3 times as many videos already. But you know,
yeah,
it is what it is. You know, there's a lot of ridicule and hesitation and that type of thing where people don't always want to come forward and share. Some that do, they change their mind about getting on camera and being recorded. So I respect that, and then I just, you know, let them tell me their experience, and then I share with everybody.
Yeah. Well, you do it in such a respectful way, and it really comes across very personable and authentic, and I would think that most people would be comfortable telling you their stories.
Right. I take it serious, and I've been there, done that. So when I have a little more insight to what happened, so I guess I can convey it a little better.
Oh yeah.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I was making sure you could hear me.
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. You're just driving in that blizzard.
So I'm going into I'm going down a back road right now. I'm kind of covered by the trees, so it makes it easier to see.
Well, hey, maybe we'll have a Sasquatch run out in front of you. We can see it.
Well,
that'd be something.
That would be something.
Live action.
Yeah. On the spot reporting.
Yeah, right. Hey, that would blow up the whole web. I love it. Yes. Well, this is exciting, Fred. You know, I really wanted to talk to you tonight about the little people, because that is something that really, I think that creeps me out a little more than even Bigfoot. Bigfoot doesn't creep me out because I'm a Bigfoot researcher. However, when we come across other cryptids out there that are unfamiliar, such as these little people, I think that really gets people's interest going.
Right. No, I agree. Let me get you guys turned around here. Can you let's see. It's going to be a little jacked up because I'm in the Tahoe here.
Take your time.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, I find those stories creepy as well. Like I shared one with from Russ Black where they were young and this thing came and slinked into the room and was staring down at them. There's just something about that is just so creepy, because I mean, this guy, they know everyone from their village. You know what I mean? So this little 3-foot creature walks in and is essentially staring at 5 kids. Now, his little sister ended up freaking out when it started cocking its head side to side. And she wasn't having it. And, you know, she screamed, "What are you looking at?" And it ran out, and it was super, super fast. Wow. Hold on, I'm going to be going through a little bit of a dead spot here. So if I fade out, just give me a moment and it'll clear back up.
Okay, everyone, Fred is reporting live and direct from Alaska, and for anyone who's not familiar with Fred Roehl, he's Fred in Alaska. He has an amazing YouTube channel, and I'm going to actually pull up the banner right now so you guys can go subscribe to his YouTube channel, Subartic Alaskan Sasquatch. Okay, and he's got real life stories from his friends, his family, people that he knows all over Alaska and around his area. With real life stories of Alaska Sasquatch, and most recently he's posted videos on the little people, or at least a video on the little people there, and like he was saying earlier, some people are not so eager to come forward and go on camera, let him know the story, because there is still a bunch of ridicule, and behind people who come forward with their stories. So, but please go subscribe to Fred's YouTube channel, everybody. Subartic Alaska Sasquatch on YouTube. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's actually the second time I've shared little people stories.
Yeah. And there went Fred. He hit that dead zone. So Fred hit the dead zone. I'm sure he'll come back in just a minute. I actually lost contact with Fred the last time he came on the show because unfortunately he does live out in the middle of nowhere, basically. Well, it's not that he lives in the middle of nowhere. I think he shoots his videos from the middle of nowhere, basically. And a lot of times there's not Wi-Fi and things like that. And you guys, he's driving through a blizzard right now. So I'm going to check. I'm actually on my cell phone tonight. Okay. So it's not, I don't have everything right here so easily at my fingertips tonight, but I'm going to keep checking back with Fred. And hopefully he'll come back. Last time we had just a small little snafu where we got cut off. And we were actually on that episode, because he's been on an SOR with me twice before. So this is the third time. And yeah, thank you to everybody in the chat tonight. You guys are awesome. Thank y'all so much for being here. And hey, Amy, we're praying for your mom. Okay. I saw that she was having surgery. And yeah, so yeah, and I think we got Fred's cousin in the house tonight too. What's up, Ryan? And so yeah, we are just gonna have we're gonna wing it tonight and hope that Fred can make it back. But yeah, the last time Fred came on the show, we were talking about the connection to Sasquatch and gold mines. And we only got halfway through that conversation. So I'm planning to ask Fred about that tonight. And so hopefully he'll be back in here. Okay. But yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So he's talking about the little people. Okay. And this is what I'm asking him about. These little people, I don't know, are they like trolls? Are they elves? When I was telling my son about them today, he said they sounded like elves to him, which is actually very interesting because what time of the year is it? It's Christmas. Who makes all the toys with Santa Claus? The elves, right? So I don't know. Is there a connection? Turn my camera off. Is there a connection? I don't know. We're gonna find out. We'll ask Fred when he comes back. But yeah, if you guys go to his channel, yeah, go to his channel and subscribe. And the first video you're gonna see on there is about the little people. And it was talking about, I guess a mom had to go out of town. She had to go pick up some supplies in town. Left her kids, like 5 kids. I think they were sleeping in their house. And I don't think they had a doorknob on their door. Okay. And which is, it's a little creepy not having a doorknob on your door. And they had like a nail and a rubber band or something holding their door together. And it wasn't big enough for anybody's hand to come through. But the kids heard somebody walking on their porch. And I'm not even sure if I'm telling the story 100% correct. So please forgive me. We'll have Fred tell us when he comes back. But they heard boot steps, like footsteps on the front porch, and the door opened. And I'm assuming the kids thought it was like their mom or somebody. And guess what? It wasn't. Apparently, it was some little people, like they look like elves that came into the house. And yeah, came into the house and ran straight to the kids' room. Okay, so if that doesn't creep you out, I don't know what does. But yeah, ran straight to the children's room and sat there and stared at the kids. And the kids were trying their best not to act like they were awake. They were trying to pretend like they were sleeping. And one of the boys decided to close his eyes and kind of peek out through his eyelashes, is what Fred was saying. And this little, like 3-foot little elf, I guess you could call it, was staring at the kids and like cocking its head to the side and looking at them. And I think they sat there letting this thing watch them for a minute until the little boy's sister couldn't handle it anymore. And she flung the blankets off the bed and freaked out and screamed. And I'm assuming these little things ran away. However, I don't know if they ran off. I don't know if they just disappeared. From what I understand, these little people are not only, they look like elves, but they're mischievous. They're troublemakers. Okay. Some people say they go in and out of portals. Okay. Is that is that totally out there? I don't think so. Because guess what? We look into portals as we did last night with my guest Marco Polo. He is into the multi-dimensional Sasquatch, right? For everybody who watched that show last night, that was an amazing show. I do believe I have Fred back. He's coming back, y'all. We're gonna get him right back up. Poor Fred. He's driving in the blizzard. All right, so here we go. Here's Fred. He's back. Hey, Fred. Fred, can you hear me? Hey,
Yeah,
Fred.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. You're in a blizzard.
Yeah, it's a bit treacherous right now out on the roads. But I'm good.
Okay, good.
Anyway,
well, Fred,
we were talking about the little people.
Yes, I was giving a little synopsis of the story you were telling about the kids and the little people that ran into the house and were standing over the bed with those kids. But I don't know if I told it all the way right. Yeah. So you can tell
what happened is Russ and his siblings, they were all lined up in bed, and back then this was back in 1979. The kids kind of watched each other. The oldest one would watch the younger one, type of thing, and it happened a lot. We had older cousins watch us, etc. So it wasn't uncommon for that, things like that, kids to be alone with the older sibling. But so basically what went down is as soon as it got dark out, they would go to bed because that was just what they did. And older sister usually told the story before they went to bed, so that got done. And they heard someone pulling on the snow machine starting cord, and they assumed it was one of the neighbors because some alcohol had just made it to the village, so they figured it's probably some drunk neighbor trying to start the snow machine and take it for a joyride. Well, it didn't start, and a moment later they hear these what sounded like boot steps coming up the stairs, and their door at the time didn't have a doorknob. They had it tied off with the string on a little 16-penny nail. And this thing came in through the door, and they heard it walk down the hallway up until the edge of the room, and they had a sheet hanging as a doorway because the doors weren't in yet. This was what they call a HUD home. So imagine an elongated Monopoly house. It is about the shape of them. Well, this thing walked back, stayed just out of view, and once it sensed them in the room, their only defense was be quiet and basically play possum. So they all laid quiet, and this thing slinked into the room. And Russ was watching it, but with his eyes kind of squinted, looking through his eyelashes. And this thing creeped up beside them, and once it got level with their heads, it started staring down at them. And once it started turning its head side to side like a dog would out of curiosity, his little sister that was right next to the edge of the bed freaked out, and this thing tore out of there inhumanly fast. By the time she flung the blanket, they heard it running down the steps outside. So this thing was really, really quick. But that's not, I had my first voices from the village, a villager named Mike. He wanted to remain anonymous, but the village he's from, they came across a group of these little people, and he had 4 fellow villagers that were witnesses to it. And he shared that experience on Voices from the Village #1. In my I forget what number it is. I try to number all my videos for ease of finding them or watching them chronologically or what have you, but it's in there, and he shares the experience firsthand. what him and some other people dealt with.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, how prevalent are the little people in Alaska? I mean, is this something that you've heard stories about your entire life?
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. I've probably heard more little people stories from my aunts than I did anything about the Hairy Man. It's a long oral history of the little people, and a quick overview of the beliefs as far as where I'm from. They're mischievous. January 17th, you got to cover your mirrors, because that's when the veil is thinnest, I guess, and they can, if you're in the steam bath with the mirror, they can come and steal you away, steal your soul, just things of that nature. It's also said that they like to dance underneath the northern lights. And what else?
Who wouldn't want to do that? That sounds fun.
Actually, it really is. Just being out under them, it's beyond beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm kind of spoiled. I can see the northern lights when they're when the conditions are right out my front window. I can sit on my steps and watch them. So I'm kind of spoiled when it comes to that.
Yeah, you need to broadcast that, Fred. You need to do that on your live on your YouTube channel. You should totally. Yeah. Amy, thank you for that super sticker. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think the Northern Lights are amazing. And I think that does add, I mean, it just seems supernatural. Okay, so it's got to add like more of a supernatural element to what's going on up there, because Alaska is magical. I mean, there's got to be a lot of magical things going on.
It is, and there's places you can go and you could just feel it in the air, where it's just like a mystical forest. It's hard to put into words, but you could just feel the difference.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I've talked to you before about the alien connection to Bigfoot, and you said you don't know a whole lot about that, and like maybe even the interdimensional aspect to Sasquatch. Has your opinion changed on any of that, or have you looked into that any further since the last time we talked?
I haven't gotten any kind of reports about anything in portals or interdimensionally speaking. Everything that's been shared has been on a flesh and bone type of level. So I still don't have much to add as far as that's concerned.
Okay. I had to ask Fred.
Oh, no worries. No, trust me. Anytime I get an encounter to share with people, I share it. You know what I mean? But again, there are some that just want to talk to somebody so they know they're not crazy. And so, you know, I deal with that part of it too. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, okay. So let's go back to that story with the little people, with the children.
Right.
These little people are known to be mischievous. Do you think that they were considering kidnapping those children, or doing something sinister to them, or were they just there to observe?
No, the feeling Russ said, because I asked him, I was like, how'd you feel? He said it felt ominous. He felt like it was sizing them up on what to do with them.
Yeah, you know, my German Shepherd does that little head thing where they turn their head sideways when she's trying to understand like what I'm saying, or it's always when she's curious or trying to understand something. So maybe those little people were doing trying to read their minds or see if they were really asleep.
Yeah, I think it sensed that they were playing possum, and it was just sizing them up basically, because once his little sister freaked out, which I don't blame her, this thing was right up next to her staring at them. So, you know, she had a different perspective than him. He was the second one in, but still, it had to be just horrific to be a child and deal with that.
Oh, terrifying. And we have a question tonight. Filthy. Hey, Filthy. He's asking if I've ever witnessed a little person on my adventures in the woods. Well, I have not personally witnessed a little person before in the woods, but one of my teammates, a good friend of mine, David Pardue, who lives in North Carolina, he's with the Carolina Cryptid Researchers Organization. He actually has filmed some and has it on film. And there, I think there's 4 of them running through the woods. And so we have those. It's a video that he has. He shot on a thermal imaging camera. So we have encountered those. Now, in that instance, we do believe those could have been aliens, ETs of some sort. But you never know. We just don't know. So, Fred, that's why I asked you about the alien aspect, because sometimes these little people, some said they could be aliens.
Well, a lot of the reports have to do with them wearing little sealskin outfits. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it could be. I'm speaking about the traditional little people stories of Alaska, and they're typically clad in animal hides.
Interesting.
And, yeah. So, like Mike, who shared his experience from a remote Alaska island, he stated that they were all wearing sealskin outfits.
Wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting because I had looked into. I know this is on the opposite end of the spectrum, but I looked into the giant of Kandahar, and those are giants, and they were actually wearing like animal skin clothing as well. So very primitive, in my opinion.
Yes, very.
Yeah. I wonder if I'm not saying, I'm just speculating, but I wonder if it has something to do with inner Earth, some kind of inner Earth being or interdimensional, I guess.
It could be. I mean, I've heard stories about the caves, and even Russ, when he shared that experience, he said that there's an outcropping of rocks going towards Iliamna from Mount Dalton, where that little person experience happened, where his elders told him that's where the little people stem from, up in the rocks, along with the Hairy Man. So that's their local oral history as far as where they come from. And to me, that sounds like a cave system to me,
It does. Yeah. Well, last time you were here, we were talking about the Sasquatch connection to gold mines, and we didn't get to finish that conversation. And I thought that was a really cool idea, because I've gotten things I've looked into and some of the stories I've read and things I've been told. There's a lot of Sasquatch sightings around gold mines, and you and I were talking about perhaps a connection to maybe the Sasquatch guarding the gold mines up there.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be. I mean, even historically, not even Alaska, you got accounts from the Pacific Northwest, California, on up through Canada to Alaska, where so many accounts revolve around gold mines, whether it be miners missing or, I mean, it runs the gambit, but, or the Ape Canyon incident, they were gold mining. It's just numerous things. And like up here, there's this story about the Mulchatna Screamer, which is speaking about the Mulchatna River, which is the second largest tributary to the Nushagak River outside of the Nuyakuk by volume. It has an oral history of people who have gone up there gold mining and panning and trying to do some sluicing, getting chased off and screamed at by a hairy man. So I don't know if it's a protection thing. There's just so many unknowns, but it sure is interesting that it seems to happen more. I mean, even our occurrence in 2006, we were up there to do some prospecting. We didn't get a chance to start, but we were there to do some panning and do some sluicing. So, I mean, there's got to be something to it. What it is exactly, I have no clue, but there's something to it.
I think there's something to it. I mean, if I were a conspiracy theorist, I'd say maybe alien stuff going on, and the Anunnaki. Didn't they mine for gold? I don't know. I mean, I just think there's something strange, and I think it's worth looking into more. And so that's something that I'm very interested in. Now, Fred, we do have a question. It's actually a statement in the chat tonight, and that Nathan from the Quantum Show wants to know about Portlock, Alaska. And are you familiar with the whole Portlock, Alaska deal? And you and I have probably talked about this before in the past. But what are your thoughts on Portlock?
You know, a lot of people go to Portlock where the original village was, looking for you know, some kind of evidence or whatever. But from everyone I've talked to about it, those creatures actually are a couple valleys back from that area now, and they're not as much on the coastal area because they're not drawn down there by the population of people that were there. So again, it's such a vast area that the whole Gulf of Alaska down towards Prince William Sound, it has a very rich history of hairy man encounters. You know, Small Town Monsters just recently released their Alaska Coastal Sasquatch or whatever, and they filmed in a remote spot. And I've been to that property, and that place, the whole area has a creep factor of about 20 on a scale to 10. No sooner than I got there, we had one whoop at us within 5 minutes of being there. Just a whole litany of things. The sounds that come out of that area. They showed they showcased the baby crying audio from that area, which is spooky as shit. Because
we've talked about that before, Fred. You and I talked about that. You were telling us the story last time. Yeah,
my cousin Elizabeth Osterhaus, she had an experience in 1967 on Alaska Island, where one of these things imitated a known baby's cry perfectly. Mimicked this child and lured them out of their apartment, and they didn't even see it until they were going back into the apartment, and this thing was 10 feet from them, staring in the window. So there's a level of cunning that's just really, really creepy to prey on a woman's natural motherly instinct to lure them out. There's a level of cunning to that is just unreal.
Yeah, that is super creepy, but it makes you wonder, like, what were they up to? What would make them try to lure people out of their house? Are they trying to get in the house? Are they trying to kidnap a kid? Or like, what are they doing?
Exactly.
Really
there's possibilities, because there was kids in the apartment, you know. So, and again, historically speaking, and with our oral history, they tend to steal women and children. So.
Yeah.
You know, there was options for it. And, you know, once they saw it, they jumped inside, locked the door, and our other cousin had all the kids go hide under the bed until it left. But, you know, that story is not unique either. There's stories like that are all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're so prevalent in Alaska, which makes me wonder, what is going on up there? And I think I've talked to you in the past about how violent a lot of the Sasquatch have historically been in Alaska. And that's in regards to the Portlock, Chatham, you know, the town getting up and leaving, and just leaving all the stuff behind and never coming back. And I personally I think there's a connection to all of the weather manipulation technology that's up there, and all sorts of weird stuff that we're not really privy to. We're not supposed to know about, like HAARP, you know, that's up in Alaska.
Oh, yeah. I
think
see
that
HAARP
has
when they
something to
turn
do with
it on. When they turn on the HAARP, you could see it in the clouds. The clouds ripple like sand on a receding tide. There's ripples in the clouds that are caused by the HAARP. So it's easy to tell when you're up here when they have it on, and you can actually make out what direction they're sending the signal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it makes you wonder. We've been having a lot of weird weather around here lately. So I know down here in the south, it's actually hot down here. It's warm. It rained all weekend, and some people are wearing shorts and t-shirts right now, which is very odd. So, but it has to have something. The frequency of all that stuff. There has to be some kind of high-pitched frequencies that are coming out of that, which I believe are making not only the animal life there and the wildlife more irritable and more frustrated. I believe that it affects the Sasquatch and even the people like yourself that live up there.
Oh, I agree. It's got to be doing something, and who knows what kind of experiments they're running as far as frequencies and that type of thing. You know, I mean, there's so many different variables that I mean, it runs the gambit from innocent to nefarious.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, you gotta be careful out there, and with all of your stories, I know you've had some personal experiences that weren't so nice with the Sasquatch, and that's why I really love talking with you about this, because it's not all rainbows and sunshine sometimes with the Sasquatch, and you were able to convey that to people, and not to say that they're not all bad, they're not all nice. Okay, so that's just something that my team and I have encountered too, even down here in the South.
Right, and you know, I think it has to do with our distance and the remoteness up here. There's so much space up here. You know, you could literally fit 19 other states inside our state. You know, over 1 million lakes, hundreds of thousands of rivers. I mean, it's endless. You know, there's so much unbroken wilderness between here and the North Pole that it's too many hiding places. You know, it's like where do you start looking? It's needle in a haystack.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you seem to know all the good spots up there, so you seem to know where to go, Fred.
Well, people share. You know, I know the places to go back home in Bristol Bay, but like the areas around here, I learn of those from, you know, people who go to these areas far more than me. And then, you know, sometimes when I can, I'll go to, you know, on location and kind of showcase the area and what have you. And that's been kind of creepy at times too. We went west of Nancy Lake Recreation Area north of Big Lake, and that place, when we got there, in the video, it's remote AF. I forget what number it is, but I'm creeped out the whole time. I'm walking in a circle. I can't fully focus on what I'm doing because my attention's continually being drawn off into these trees where it was so thick you couldn't make anything out, and just some ominous places. You know, it kind of gets your radar, your spidey senses tingling, and I cut it short and got out of there. But there's a lot of places like that around here. Lazy Mountain's a place, the Matanuska River, Knik Glacier. And these are all areas that are like adjacent to each other.
Yeah. Well, since you started your website in your Hairy Man project and having your YouTube channel, how often do you get messages from people with stories and asking you to come out and investigate?
Well, coming out to investigate is a little different because everyone reacts differently when they have an encounter. I have open invitations to a lot of places where people have had their encounters. But sometimes logistically, like we're dealing with a snowstorm right now, so it makes it harder to get to some of these areas at certain times of the year unless they're right off the road. You know, or, you know, we make a few day trip by snow machine to get to some of these places. We've gotten, it's probably going to be almost 3 feet of snow by morning in just the last week alone. So,
oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it's Alaska. What do you do? Yeah. I mean, if anywhere to have snow, it's here, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm not up there right now. We have one snowflake that falls in Georgia and they close everything down. And we're fighting over milk and bread. Okay. So
Right, right.
I yeah, my prayers are with you, Fred, up there. And so what you're saying is there's not a whole lot of Sasquatch investigations going on right now.
No, no. And again, I'm not an investigator, although there are some places I want to go and check out. But like as far as I mean, there's other people that do it a lot better than me as far as investigating. Me, I don't need evidence. I don't need proof. I've already seen them more than once. I've seen how they move. I don't. Evidence for me, it really is irrelevant because I already know that I know. But
Yeah.
for some, I mean, if I come across some good evidentiary footage, I'm gonna showcase it. You know, I'm gonna share with everybody. But again, the channel's goal isn't necessarily to prove anything. Like when I do my videos, when you watch them, I just lay out what went down for this person, and I move on to the next one. I don't overanalyze it. I just kind of leave it at everyone's feet, and you know, and go on to the next one.
Yeah. And you know what I really love? I love a lot of things about your channel, Fred. Okay. But I really appreciate the fact that you actually go to the locations where people have had an encounter with Sasquatch and you film from there and you tell the story from there. And I feel like that really puts you on the vibe of what happened. And I can tell you're very intuitive to stuff. And so I can appreciate that. When you're out there telling these stories, because I think it makes it more personable, not only about the story, just telling the story, but I think the people whose stories you're telling can probably appreciate it even more, that you take the time to go out there and do that.
Right. And I do that in places I can. Now, at other times, I'll record from the back corner of my property, just in the woods, and share the experience because, again, logistics are a pain, and with the cost of gas, it makes it hard to go to each and every one. But you know, I go to on-site. I did an on-site interview with Ryan a little while back at Deception Creek. You know, we walked through the woods and he shared what he dealt with, and whenever I can, I do. You know, and again, it's more logistics than lack of want.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. These gas prices are not fun right now. Everything's more expensive. Maybe that's why Sasquatch doesn't come out as much right now, because they're trying to save some money. Just kidding.
Right. They can't afford it.
They can't afford it. They're staying in just like the rest of us. They've got their subscription to Netflix. They're chilling. Yeah, no, we're joking about all this, but it is a very serious, topic here, and I commend you, Fred. Like you're really putting the work in and getting boots on the ground out there, and really getting the word out and letting us all know what's going on up there. It's always fun every time you have a new video that comes out. I'm there. I'm watching it.
I appreciate that. And, I try to, like, depending on who's sharing it with me, if they laugh at about a certain situation that, transpired, then I may giggle about it on video. But typically a lot of the people who share, they're very serious when they're sharing it. So I try to keep it along the lines of how they shared it with me. You know what I mean? So if it was a little more lighthearted, I may add that in there. Just because I'm biased personally, I don't trust any of them, but I haven't seen all of them either. I don't know what happens when I'm not around. So like a guy named Dan, he shared an experience where he was rescued by a female, and I asked him, I was like, well, do you think it was trying to help you? What was your feeling about it? And his words were, he felt it helped him to get him out of the area because of the added scrutiny of the area with the rescuers searching for him and what have you.
Wow. Well, they don't want to give their locations away, and so it would be best for them to help somebody get out of there before the search crews and the dogs come in. trying to find people.
Right.
It's
Because
gonna give, yeah.
the whole area had a bunch of planes in the air, helicopters, troopers on the road. And so he felt it was more, they were trying to get rid of him, get rid of the problem that's bringing all this noise to the area kind of deal versus, hey, let me help this poor boy, this little lost 10-year-old boy. It was more like, let's get this little bastard out of here and, get the noise to stop.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I can feel that. I feel it. So, but at least they helped. And, there was another story of a gold miner up in Canada, Albert Osman, and that people didn't believe his story. He said that he had been kidnapped by a Sasquatch and taken to where they lived. And he was bundled up in a sleeping bag and tossed over the shoulder of a Sasquatch up that way. And, imagine being that man telling that story and being ridiculed for your entire life after you go public with that. It's got to be hard for extraordinary stories like that. I actually did remote view that story, and I found that it did actually happen. So I do believe that poor old man. So
yeah, there's a lot of people that what gets me is the amount of people that feel isolated when they have an experience. There's so many people, I'm sure, that haven't shared their experience because they're afraid of the ridicule, and so inadvertently they hold it in, and that could turn toxic. You know what I mean? It could cause someone to drink or do various other things to self-medicate, and
right.
to me, that's a shame, and that's why, I even tell people, even if you don't want your story shared on the channel, you need to ask or talk to somebody about it. Give me a call. I talk to people all over the country. I mean, all the time. And, it usually revolves around people not wanting to feel like they're crazy and wanting to share with somebody,
Yeah.
without judgment. In other words, without someone going, yeah, whatever. Because I mean, that's disheartening, especially when it was so traumatic in the moment, and then for the people you're supposed to trust and care about, they mock you over it. That's kind of hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very difficult. And I've had the pleasure of being on shows and having a show with the guys from Texas Front Porch, and they're all Bigfoot field researchers too, or most of them are. And so it feels like almost like an AA group, shall I say, or something, some kind of support group, for people who have been like Bigfoot and on. Like, I want to shout out to Connor Flynn, Bigfoot and on. But it's when you have an experience that's so traumatic, it's good to know that you're not alone, that we've all been there. I actually went out looking for them. I didn't just happen upon some. Okay. So our stories are all different, but it's still traumatic no matter what. And a lot of times when we have these Sasquatch experiences, in my case, there's been UFOs involved and aliens and stuff like that. So, and little people, Fred, so it's not just Sasquatch. It's a whole spectrum of cryptids and humanoids.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have just as many little people stories as I do hairy man stories. I started with, I plan on doing all the mythological cryptids, traditionally speaking, from First Nations people. I plan on going, doing all the topics. I only started with the hairy man because I have experience with it, but little people are the next on the list. So after I do the documentary on the Alaskan Hairy Man, I'm going to do one on the little people and so on. So I'm going to kind of leapfrog from one to the other and kind of, that's the overall goal. I haven't gotten there yet, but that's the goal.
Okay, yes. And I got to tell you, Fred, I was reading the comments on the little people video that you did because I wanted to see what the audience was thinking about it. It's a good way to get a feel of where everybody's minds are at with the little people when they leave your comments. And I noticed there were people telling stories from all over the world. all over the world, from like the
Yeah.
islands and Africa to wherever. In Europe, there's stories of these little people all over the entire world.
Yeah, and same with the hairy man, and same with various other type cryptids. And you know, for mainstream science to dismiss an oral history that's a millennia in age to their own personal thoughts because they went to some, you know, prim and proper school or whatever, I think they're doing a huge disservice, you know, because there's a reason for the oral history, and that reason is to keep villagers, like my fellow villagers, safe. These stories are told to us as warnings, like, you know, don't whistle in the woods, don't go in the woods alone, don't follow the hairy man into the woods, don't follow the little people. And these are practical things. If you ever met an Alaska Native elder, they don't say a whole lot, but when they do, it's poignant. It's for a reason. And for elders to share these stories, it's not just to scare kids and keep them out of the woods. There's real life component to it. And, you know, I get reports all the time about these things. You know, there's some people on Facebook from Selawik that posted some footage of a little an alleged little person on the tundra dancing around.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I mean, there's stuff out there. Yeah, I mean, and again, I've it's a drop in the bucket that I've shared thus far as hairy man experiences, and even less about the little people. And so, you know, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing as far as sharing those experiences until, you know, the weather clears and I can get some work done on the documentaries.
Okay. Yeah. I think that the little people is such an important topic right now. I think a lot of people are super interested in that, Fred, and I think you should definitely explore that more and get some more stories. What really stood out to me too was someone, you were telling the story of some of the guys that had seen some of these little people climbing up a hill and pushing each other up the hill and then rolling down it and stuff. Like they were playing and having a lot of fun, and it just sounded like, I just was imagining garden gnomes. Okay. Like,
Yeah, that's kind of what I envisioned too.
Yeah.
But you know, without the weird hat. Because he said, I mean, the moonlight was bright enough for him to make out these things. And, you know, once he started really watching what was going on, he was watching them fling each other back up the hill. But once his brother called out to him, he said the whole mood changed to one of like, oh, we were caught. But there was also an ominous kind of feel in the air after that. Once they, you know, disappeared into the whirlwinds of snow, he said it was a very uncomfortable feeling after that, like somehow they overstepped a bound or something.
Yeah. Well, we just it's just about putting these stories out there, you know, and getting everybody's story from every angle, you know, and yeah, I see somebody in the comments saying that we're doing a witch hunt on Bigfoot. We're not witch hunting Bigfoots and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, you know, it's all about seeing it from every angle. Okay. There's I see Sasquatch like people, Fred. Okay. I think that they are like people. Some of them are wonderful and beautiful and kind and sweet and generous and have a good heart. And then there are other ones that will eat you. Okay. So,
Right. And up here,
yeah.
I've never gotten an encounter from someone where they said they felt safe. Never have I gotten an encounter from someone who said, oh, I didn't fear this being. Now I've heard stories about that from down in the States, but I haven't heard one person tell me, oh, I had a good feeling. It's always a unnatural fear, even without seeing these things, just hearing them in the woods, it strikes them so primally that it unlocks that fight or flight that happens with prey. Not with friends, but with prey. So I'm not out to witch hunt anything. I'm just merely, I'm a reporter with boots on the ground, so to speak, that has dealt with this shit. And
yeah.
I don't feel they are our forest friends. My oral history with my tribe doesn't say so. And many other tribes up here, they don't have an oral history of friendship with these things. They're man stealers. They'll steal your women and children, and they will eat you. That is the overwhelming oral history for a lot of tribes.
Yeah.
And I tend to believe the tribes versus what someone may feel down in the States.
Yeah, right. Well, I do a lot of boots on the ground research as well. I have never been harmed by a Sasquatch. I have definitely had the fear of God put in me a time or two out there from some kind of unknown force. But however, we just have to be careful, just like we have to be careful with our fellow humans. Okay, not everybody is out to give us a helping hand and to be nice. And so, yeah, Fred, this is amazing. Where can people find you? And let's tell everybody what your YouTube channel is.
Oh, it's Subartic Alaskan Sasquatch, and we also have a website under the same name, subarticalaskasasquatch.com. I have an interactive map there where people can zoom in on the state of Alaska and pick one of these pin markers of an encounter if they're going to that area, and see what kind of experience that's been had there before. Again, there's not a hairy man behind every tree out to get somebody. I don't feel it's that way. I do, however, feel when people get near these things, they are far more territorial up here, and the overwhelming, if you look at all the experiences shared with the channel, a lot of them have to do with these things making themselves known and people getting the hell out of Dodge. And that seems to be the overwhelming evidence. They just want people out of that area. But then there's also the side of it where these things are terrorizing people, killing their dogs, trying to lure them out. There's a level of cunning going on that I don't know if I'll ever see them as forest friends. I don't think it's like that up here.
Yeah. Well, and it all goes back also, and I know this has been for probably centuries, for all I know, that they could have been a little more violent in Alaska. I don't believe they had a harp up there during that Portlock, Alaska stuff was going on. So, but I do think that does add another element to the agitation of some of the Bigfoots up there, or these energy frequency machines, whatever they're using up there to manipulate our energy and our weather. So it could be that.
Right. Too. Well, and then you get the reports at nuclear power plants, high tension wires. There's a litany of experiences that happen around these high energy areas. So, I mean, who knows?
Who knows? Well, Fred, I know you're going to keep your ear to the ground up there, and you're going to be on it. And so when you find out, you come back and let me know. Okay.
Oh, definitely.
Please.
Definitely.
Yes. Awesome. Well, Fred, thank you so much for coming on tonight. This has been so much fun. I can't wait to have you back on again. It'll be 2023, but we're gonna talk again. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate you for having me on tonight, and I hope everyone stays safe out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Fred. Have a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year, and I will see you back soon. Okay. Thank you, Fred. Stay
All right.
safe.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Okay.
I will.
Bye, Fred.
All right. Bye.
All right. Okay, y'all. I am doing this all from my phone tonight. Yes, I am. All right. Don't forget that right after this show, you guys can join the After Hours crew. They have an amazing show set up for you guys. Be sure to join us in Las Vegas, everybody. Spaced Out Radio is going to be in Las Vegas May the 19th through the 21st for a big old fun time. So y'all come join us. Next time on Off the Trails, my guest is Rodrigo Larita. We're going to be talking about UFOs and interdimensionals and things like that. But for now, y'all, I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones. I am headed off the trails. I will see you guys next week. I hope y'all have an amazing week. Thank y'all so much for being here. We had a big old audience tonight, and it's been a pleasure. I'll see y'all next week. Bye, y'all.